My name is Hiroshi Harano. I'm a 20-year-old college student. This time, I'd like to tell you about some trouble I had at my part-time job. It involved a really annoying colleague of mine who I'll introduce you to a little later. I work at a distribution center close to home. Most days, I work the nighttime shift because it pays more. I would have preferred to work in a cafe or in a bar or something more fun or suitable for a college student, but the problem was that my house was in the suburbs and that the local station was more than a bus ride away. In other words, if I wanted to save more money, I had to cut down on my choices. The distribution center was within walking distance, so it naturally became my first choice. Considering that it's a job that involves a lot of heavy lifting and needs people that are available to work late nights, most of my colleagues are guys. There are people of all ages, including some high school part-timers and some guys that are about to hit 50. In general, everyone's nice, and we all help each other out. So I think it's a pretty good place to work. But I'm not naive. I'm aware that there is no such thing as a perfect work environment. There are bound to be one or two people that you don't get along with in any warehouse, office, or building. You can't expect to get along with everybody. This is the guy that made me realize that. So these idiots just came up to me and started picking a fight in the middle of the street. Guess what I did? I knocked them all on their feet and sent them to a hospital. All I had to do was give each of them a right hook and boom, they were done.
Whoa, man, you're really strong.
Right? They really pissed me off. Now they'll know not to mess with me when I'm angry. I'm pretty sure I traumatized all four of them. His name is Takuma Miyano. He's 25 years old. Unfortunately, he also works here. He started working here before me, so really, he should have been helping to teach me how to get tasks done. But ever since I started, I've never had any training from him. You know, I was a real bad boy in high school. I was getting in fights all the time, and I won all of them. All the girls loved me because I was such a wild guy. His favorite phrases were, "I used to be a really bad kid," and "I've never lost a fight." He clearly watched too many mafia movies when he was younger. Now, he was already 25 years old, but still seemed to think that being bad equaled being cool, and always acted like he was the top of the food chain. He never did anything that was on his job description, so whenever he found some guys on break, he would drag them around like they were his underlings and tell them stories about bad things he did when he was still in middle school. If it was just the storytelling and the obnoxious attitude, then you could pass him off as a dog that was all bark and no bite. But there were several more issues that made him a really problematic existence. Hey, I don't know, you up? I have a favor I want to ask you. Hurry up and answer. I'll have to hear what you're going to ask first. What do you need? There's a waitress at a bar that I go to. She's really hot. And I finally got her to go out on a date with me. She was being coy, but after all my effort, she couldn't resist me. Good for you, but that's got nothing to do with me. Yeah, I'm not done yet. I promised to take her out next Sunday, so I need you to take my shift for me. Next Sunday? Oh, sorry, no can do. I can't work that day. Why not? It's not like you have to go to college that day, and it's not like a loser like you has a girlfriend to go out with. Cover for me! I don't have lectures that day, but I have a deadline for a report the following Monday, so I'll need that Sunday off to make sure it's completed. I don't give a crap. I'm telling you to come in on Sunday for my shift. My date's more important. I'm telling you as your senior at work. Are you sure you want to argue back to me? Understood. I'll cover for you next Sunday. Listen, whenever I ask you to do something, you should obey me without a second thought. If I tell you to jump off a cliff, you better hop, skip, and jump off of it. You're not allowed to say no to me. Recently, I've gotten a bit more mature. But if it was the old me, I would have knocked your lights out. Do you want that? Right, sorry. I won't ever do it again. This kind of conversation happens pretty often. He would make an unreasonable and self-centered demand like that, and if given a negative, he would just follow up with threats and pressure until he had gotten the reply that he desired. Plus, despite the many times that I covered for his shifts, he had never swapped shifts with me when I needed a particular day off. My working hours only increased and increased, even though I had to think about my college credits. I personally wanted to balance my work and college hours so that I wouldn't fall behind in my lectures and reports. and so that I could graduate on time. I was aware that the longer it took for me to graduate, the more I would have to pay in tuition fees, and that was the last thing I wanted. Of course, I needed the money, but graduating was my priority. The thing that irritated me the most was that Takuma thought that he could treat me however he liked because I was younger than him, and was underestimating how difficult it was for a college student to compensate for time loss. Moreover, whenever we had shifts together, my workload would double because he never did anything.
Oh, this video's hilarious. I've got to find more like it.
He would force his tasks onto all the other employees present and spend his entire shift in the staff room staring at his tablet, eating snacks and sleeping around.
Takuma's slacking off again. It's gonna be a long night tonight.
Yeah, but it's better than him getting in the way of our work. He just doesn't know how to do anything, so it's probably quicker this way. Just don't get drawn into a conversation about his bad boy days.
Yeah, that's true. I'll try and avoid him, but if he catches me, there's no stopping him.
None of us had ever seen him work properly, and with his lack of work ethic, it was safe to assume that he couldn't do anything anyway. But since he was always bragging about how strong he was and how he had won so many fights since he was younger, it was a little difficult to ask him to stop slacking. All we could do was just let him do as he wanted, and do our best by ourselves. Sometimes he wouldn't spend his shifts in the staff room, but instead would loiter around the warehouse looking for victims.
Hey, can I try a wrestling move on you? I want to practice some stuff.
I'm kind of in the middle of work. I need to move all these boxes tonight.
Hurry up and lie down. I'm giving you an order. You're just a guinea pig, so do as I say.
He had recently been watching a lot of wrestling videos, and it had recently become his favorite pastime to test his skills on the guys at work. He had never gone to have actual training in a proper gym before, so of course we all hated the idea of having an amateur attempt wrestling moves on us, but there was no saying no to him.
Ouch! Ow! 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 Oh, I give up! Let go! Please let go! Huh? What'd you say? I can't hear you! Looks like that doesn't hurt enough yet.
The worst part was that he would obviously be choosing the most painful moves to try out and wouldn't stop, no matter how much we asked him to stop. There really was no stopping him. After hearing all this, you might be thinking that if his behavior is this bad, we should have reported him to a manager and have him kicked out months ago. And that's what I would have done if this were any other company. The reason why Takuma is able to do whatever he likes without any fear of punishment is pretty simple.
Hey, how you doing today? Dad, I'm breaking my back working here. Can't you give me a raise already?
Sure thing. I'll have it dealt with when I can. This man is the owner of this distribution center, the CEO, Mr. Miyano. He's also Takuma's father.
Takuma, you've really grown up so much. You know, he used to be so rebellious and caused a lot of trouble. I was always getting called into the principal's office because of the little pranks that he played on his friends. I'm just glad that he changed his ways and has started to make a difference in the community by working so hard. It was worth all the trouble and effort it took to discipline him when he was younger. No, come on, Dad. Don't embarrass me with talks about my rebellious years. I've completely changed. Don't remind me of all that.
I don't know what Takuma was like when he was younger, so I can't say anything about whether he's improved since then or not, but if the CEO thinks that his son is working hard right now, he's sorely mistaken. Far from it, Takuma's being paid to do nothing, so he's just dead weight. If anything, several employees have left because of him, so he's not profiting the company at all. I guess parents really do love their kids unconditionally, no matter what, and that would sound great if the kid wasn't such a complete dumbass. From our point of view, it was the CEO's coddling and inability to notice his son's behavior that had led to Takuma being so self-centered. Of course, if it was that easy, we would have complained to the CEO ages ago. But it was unlikely that he would take us seriously, and he was sure to defend his own son even if we brought him evidence. We all just let it slide and released our pent-up frustration by complaining about them amongst ourselves instead. Then one day,
everyone, I have an announcement to make. Can you all gather up? I'm going to be introducing a new member of the staff. This is Mitsui. She'll be working here from today on.
Hello, my name is Chinaki Mitsu. I'm looking forward to working with you.
When we saw that the new employee was a girl, all of the guys couldn't help but start to get excited. We were all talking about her. You can't blame us, since she was the only girl that had ever come to work in this warehouse. The only women employed at the center were stationed in the office, away from the heavy lifting, and they were old enough to be our mothers, so it didn't really make us as nervous. Also, the new girl was really cute.
Hey, isn't she super cute? Why did she decide to work in a place like this?
Don't get so worked up. Before thinking about dating her, you've got to help her get used to the job. We helped you out, so now it's your turn to support her.
Yes, sir.
Just because she was a girl didn't change anything. We all had our job to do. But there was one thing that was bothering me. I don't think I'm confusing her with someone else after all. I do know her. Hey, you're Mitsui, right? From MoniRobo Middle? Do you remember me?
Oh my god, Hanaro, it's you! It's been so long since I saw you. The graduation, right?
I realized that she was my classmate from middle school. It's not like we got along really well or even hung out that much, but because of a certain incident that happened in the 8th grade, I didn't have any friends and was a bit of a loner. But even though everyone else was avoiding contact with me, Mitsui was the only person who spoke to me normally.
Hanaro, you shouldn't let it get to you that much. It's not as big of a deal as you think. You've got your own good qualities, so you should hold your head high. You didn't choose for things to be like this, but that doesn't mean you can't change anything.
Yeah, thanks, Mitsui. She might not have realized then and might not even remember what she said now, but those words have really helped me get over my problem. Those words were the reason why I was able to be more positive about myself and helped support me until now. To be honest, I kinda had a crush on her because of how nice she was to me. She was my first love. But I didn't confess to her, and like I said, we didn't hang out that much, so we weren't even friends. She might not have even realized how I felt about her. Before I knew it, we had graduated and gone to separate high schools. I never thought that we would reunite in a warehouse of all places. So at first, I wasn't sure if it was actually her or not until she recognized me too. She was really cute in middle school, but she's gotten even prettier and looked so grown up. I caught myself staring at her even though I had only just warned my colleagues about focusing on the job and our eyes met. I was glad that I was able to see her again after all these years and ended up catching up with her when it was time for break. I found out that she was also still in college, but that her single-parent mom had gotten ill, so she was balancing work, college, and housework. She got a job so that she could help with the hospital bills and chose this warehouse because it was close to home. Like I mentioned earlier though, she was cute, and there was someone that was going to be a problem. Hey, that Chiaki girl that came in the other day, do you know her? Yeah, we went to the same middle school. We haven't spoken at all since then, so I can't say that we're friends or anything. Even when we were in the same class, we didn't speak that much. She's really cute. I have a thing for girls like that. It's a miracle that she decided to work here. I wonder why she would choose such a boring job. You're overreacting. She just chose it because it was close to home. Yeah, so what are you gonna do? What do you mean? Don't play dumb with me. I know that you're trying to get her to go out with you. I'm not trying anything. It's been 5 years since we last spoke, so I'm just catching up with her. Sure, if you say so. Well, either way, you're not allowed to ask her out. She's off limits. Do you like her? I thought you already had a girlfriend. What, the waitress from the bar? I dumped her ages ago. She was a pain in the ass. But Chiaki looks pretty cool, so I'm gonna give her a try. I'm sure I can get her to fall in love with me just as easily. That's why she's off limits. Let the other guys know as well. If any of you try and chat her up, you'll be really sorry. That's my order. Obey it. Takuma told me not to interfere, but I really didn't have any intention to ask her out. I may have liked her 5 years ago, but we had only spoken once since she had started working in the warehouse, so it wasn't as though my old feelings had been relit. If I was honest, I just felt bad that she had become Takuma's next target. It would mean that she probably would be getting a lot of unwanted attention from him, and the rest of us knew how tiring that could get. He was far from being called a great guy. He also forced himself on us when he wanted to try out his new wrestling moves, so I couldn't imagine how persistent he got when it came to asking out women. We were already understaffed because of how hard the work was, and because of how annoying Takuma was. So I was more worried that his incessant invitations to go out might make Mitsui leave.
Hey Hanaru, who's this Miyano person? The shift schedule's changed, so it looks like he's going to be covering the late shifts with us for a while. I wonder why he had to change his shift times.
I don't know. Mitsui, just between you and me, he can be a little annoying sometimes. So I suggest that you avoid being alone with him.
Seriously? Annoying in what way?
I decided that it would be best to give her an idea of what kind of person Takuma was. I didn't want to scare her, but I felt like it would be better to prepare her for the possible situations that she might encounter with him, rather than just throw her into the deep end. I told her about how he liked to brag about his past as a rebellious kid, and how he often slacked off at work, and how he was watching wrestling videos on YouTube and liked to test those moves out on the employees that were younger than him. I also told Mitsui about his threatening and intimidating attitude. As she was listening, Mitsui's face went paler and paler, and she looked shocked by all the things that Takuma was getting away with.
He's a typical daddy's boy. He gets whatever he wants from his parents, so he thinks he's entitled to everything he wants. That's the worst. You can't be serious.
Yep, I'm being serious. That's him. He won't stop talking if you take an interest, so I suggest that you just brush him off or something. If he does something that you're not comfortable with, let me know. Well, it's not like I can stop him or anything, but the most I can do is just listen to any complaints that you have.
Understood. Thanks for the warning. I'll be careful not to get caught by him.
The problem was, even if Mitsui tried to avoid Takuma, he had definitely changed his shifts to get closer to her, so that would probably be difficult. But I decided not to tell her that he might ask her out, since I didn't know whether Takuma was being serious about her or not. However, every time he had shifts with Mitsui, Takuma would find her and make her listen to his stories. So it turned out that the guy was part of the local mafia, but I beat him to a pulp. Once I was finished with him, some guy calling himself an underboss came up to me and told me that he wanted me to be a part of his gang. Cool, right? He said that he knew I had a talent from the way that I knocked his underling to the floor.
Yeah, sure, that's great.
Right? I was a really bad kid when I was younger. I was beating people up all the time, and I was the strongest in my school. But I don't do that stuff nowadays. I've washed my hands off all that. No, but when someone pisses me off, sometimes I just can't help myself and I knock him flat.
Oh, that's so scary.
Don't worry, I would never do anything to a girl, especially not you, Chiaki. Just like I had anticipated, he was trying to show off how strong he was by telling her about his past escapades. I was working, but I kept one eye on what was going on just in case. When Mitsui noticed me watching, she gave me a meaningful look. I could almost hear her saying, "He's even more annoying than I thought he would be." No matter how you look at the situation, Mitsui was clearly uninterested. Her body language and troubled expression screamed that she had had enough and wanted to get away from Takuma. But he didn't seem to notice or care how Mitsui was reacting to his stories. He only continued to talk and talk, unaware that the more he spoke, the more of a divide he was probably creating between himself and Mitsui. I wanted to do something to free her from his clutches, but since I still had work to do, there was nothing I could do that wouldn't provoke Takuma and start a fight, which would only delay our work even more. Takuma slacking off and Mitsui unavailable, the only one left to complete the day's quota was me. The night was going to be really long for me and for Mitsui. Then, on days that Mitsui had off, or whenever she wasn't around, Takuma wouldn't stop talking about her and updated everyone on how close he was getting with her. Just one more push and she's mine. No, actually, I think she's already head over heels in love with me. Whenever I tell her about the stuff I did as a kid, she's always listening so intently, and I swear her eyes turned into hearts whenever she looks at me.
Whoa, that's amazing! As expected of the toughest man in the warehouse, you've got girls falling for you as well. It's not long before you start going out, I guess.
Apparently, Takuma had convinced himself that he had a chance with Mitsui because of all the stories that he had told her. Despite how hard that she had tried to get away by telling him that she had work or that she had to go to the toilet, I just hoped that he wouldn't get carried away or do something that might be considered harassment. I messaged Mitsui, thinking that it would be best to let her know what Takuma was up to before things turned ugly. Mitsui, how are you? It's tough work, but do you think you've gotten used to the job by now?
Yeah, thanks to your advice. I think it's going pretty well.
I just wanted to talk to you about Miyano. I'm really sorry that I haven't been able to help you out as much as I hoped I could. I'd love to cut in and end his talking because I know you must be really troubled by it, and I can tell that you've had enough. I guess I'm just making excuses.
It's okay, don't worry about it. You don't have to feel responsible for Miyano. You're not his manager or anything. I'm more annoyed that a guy like him hasn't been fired by now. He really doesn't do any work at all.
Yeah, but I feel like I'm just bystanding. I need to do something, and I keep on making excuses not to, like work, or I don't want to start a fight with Miyano.
If you say that, then I was doing the same thing in middle school. Ever since that rumor spread about you, everyone in class stopped talking to you, and nobody wanted to hang out with you anymore. We didn't even check to see whether it was true or not. I didn't do anything to help you. I should have called out to you and got to know you more, but I didn't. I let the rumor decide everything for me.
You really shouldn't let that bother you. To be honest, I was surprised that everyone was avoiding me. I can't blame them for reacting like that. It's only natural. I probably would have done the same thing if I was in their shoes. Also, you did talk to me. You were the only person that spoke to me like I was a normal person in the 8th and 9th grade, and you're still treating me normally. It really helped me back then, and I feel a lot more positive about myself because of what you said to me. Your words had a bigger effect on me than you might think.
Hanaro.
The only reason why I'm able to be more positive about my family and accept that this is who I am is thanks to you. If you hadn't told me that I should hold my head high, I probably would have gotten depressed and run away from home. But now, I know that there are some people who will accept me for the way I am, and not be bothered by who my family is. That's why I wanted to say thank you. You really changed the way I looked at things.
I never knew you felt that way. I'm glad I was able to make such a difference. I hope we can get on from tomorrow as well.
A few days after we had that conversation, Mitsui and I had a late night shift together. For the first time in ages, Takuma didn't have the same shift as Mitsui. So we were able to get on with our work without any problem. I used the time to teach her tasks and methods that I hadn't been able to before.
Oh, so that's how you're supposed to do that. Every time I thought about asking you how we're supposed to complete this, I was interrupted by Miyano and never got around to asking you. But to your explanation, it sounds pretty simple. Thank you, Hinare. You're a great teacher.
Don't praise me so much, it's kind of embarrassing. But yeah, it's not as hard as it looks. Ever since we had that conversation, I felt like we were becoming a little closer. We were talking to each other more often, and we spent our lunch breaks together, eating and chatting about nothing in particular.
How's college? Are you making friends properly? Is it fun?
You're worried about whether I'm making friends or not? You sound like my mom.
What? Oh, you're right. Oh my god, please pretend I never said that. I don't want to be your mom this young.
Don't worry. I know that it's because you're good at taking care of other people. Thanks. Our conversations were lively and memorable, and I was starting to think that maybe we were getting on pretty well and that I might actually have a chance with Mitsui myself. When... Hey, what's up? Are you guys having fun at work? Takuma suddenly appeared out of nowhere, cheerful and stumbling over his own legs. It was clear by the way he was walking and talking that he was under the influence, and was already really drunk. But he also was surprisingly fast and came right over to where Mitsui was with a creepy smile plastered on his face. I had a really bad feeling. Chiaki, I came out looking for you. Let's go out and have a drink together. I promise that I'll make it worth your while.
Sorry, I'm in the middle of work. I can't leave right now.
You can leave. I'm the next CEO, so I'll allow it. You can leave all the work to Harano. He'll do everything for you. Come on, let's go. I'll buy you a drink.
Ow, you're hurting me. Let go of me. I don't want to go drinking with you.
Takuma grabbed Mitsui by the arm and was trying to drag her out of the staff room, even though she was making it clear that she didn't want to go with him. I could see that Takuma was putting a lot of strength into holding Mitsui's arm, and I decided that I had to interfere if she was in pain. Even if I didn't have any feelings for her, as somebody who had been working at this warehouse for longer than her, and as a person, I couldn't ignore what was happening. I rushed over to where Takuma had cornered Mitsui, and put myself between them. Takuma, can't you tell that she's in pain? What are you going to do if she gets hurt? I grabbed Takuma's hand and pried it away from Mitsui's arm. What the hell are you doing? Don't get in the way of me and my girlfriend-to-be! I'm your senior, and I'm the CEO's son! You can't treat me like that! Do you want to get punched? Because he was so drunk, Takuma was shouting out a flurry of slurred words, and was wobbling where he stood, but he still managed to grab a hold of my shirt and tried to pull me towards him.
Hey, don't hurt him. He hasn't done anything to you. Calm down, please.
Don't get ahead of yourself, kid. Let's go outside and I'll teach you a lesson. You should have known better than to pick a fight with me. I'll punch you so hard you'll wish you were never born. He started speaking to me in a threatening tone, and started spouting phrases that were typical of bullies and thugs in movies. Then, all of a sudden,
What's going on here? We could hear you shouting all the way from the office. What happened?
the CEO came to the staff room to see what was going on. I thought that he would notice that his son was drunk and would calm him down for us, but instead... This idiot was talking back to me! All I did was try to talk to Chiaki and he interrupted us.
Oh, really? Is that true, Harano? Were you talking back to Takuma?
It's not true. Hinari was just trying to.
I'm talking to Harano, not to you. I want you to be quiet. Harano, you do know that my son has been working here for longer than you have, don't you? You should show him a little more respect. For starters, you'll have to apologize to him for interrupting his conversation with Mitsui.
The CEO spoke over Mitsui, dismissing what she had to say. Considering how red in the face Takuma was and how strongly he smelled of alcohol, the CEO can't have missed how drunk his own son was. But he still decided to take what Takuma had said at face value. I realized then and there that there was no point in arguing with either of them using reason. I was fed up with both of their nonsense and decided that in order to stop Takuma's selfish behavior and his father's facilitation of it, I had to take action. It wasn't enough to tell them what they were doing was wrong. If I left them to do as they pleased, not only would Mitsui continue to have suffered Takuma's unwanted advances, but every other employee would also have had to work twice as hard to cover Takuma's workload, as well as fall prey to his wrestling moves. Just thinking of how much we had all suffered up until now made my blood boil, but the CEO's indifference to the trouble his son was causing was the final straw. I had no choice but to play my trump card and take control of the situation. Mr. Miyano, I hear that you and my father have been getting along well recently. He's mentioned that you're a very useful business partner.
What? What are you talking about? I don't know your father.
For a moment, the CEO didn't seem to understand what I was trying to tell him. But within seconds, he had gone silent, and it seemed like something had come to his mind.
Hang on. Are you trying to tell me that you're from the Harano family? Your father is...
That's right. My father is Takamori Harano, and I'm his only son. That makes me next in line for his position.
You can't be serious. Your son is the boss of the Harano family?
The reason why I had been such a loner in middle school, and the reason why Mitsui had been worried about whether I had made friends in college or not, was all because of the family that I'd been born into. Believe it or not, I was born as the heir to a mafia gang. My father is the current boss, and he's pretty famous in the local area. He's got connections to people with political power, and has more than enough influence over the local vote holders. As a matter of fact, he's got business deals with many of the local companies, including this warehouse in Mr. Miyano. When I was in middle school, I was aware of how troublesome it would be if everyone found out who my family really was, and knew that no matter how good of a student or a friend I was, that truth would only frighten all of my classmates away. Because of that, I had done my best to keep my origins secret. But unfortunately, it was bound to come to light sooner or later. When the rumor spread, I was disappointed, but wasn't surprised. But right now, it was a means to an end. I'm the only son, so one day I'll be taking over the family business. I'm looking forward to working with you in the future. At least, that's if you're still in charge when the time comes. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Of course, I wasn't bluffing. Replacing Mr. Miyano with another CEO would be easy, and he knew that. When he finally understood what I was suggesting, he only smiled awkwardly, and his attitude towards me became more timid and polite. However, there was only one person that was completely out of the loop and was still acting as though he had the upper hand. What the hell are you talking about? I don't care who your stupid dad is. Hurry up and apologize to me, or do you want to get punched at after all? I'll beat you so hard that I'll make it so you can never stand up ever again, and then you can go crying to your daddy! It seems that he didn't know what my family was famous for and didn't understand the consequences beating me up would bring upon his father's business. But if the stories he told Mitsui about beating up a guy from the local mafia were true, then that meant that he'd already picked a fight with someone from my family's gang. I was thinking of how I could better explain the situation to Takuma, when he suddenly came striding towards me with the intention of punching me in the face. I anticipated his punch and positioned myself so that I could get in the counter, but before Takuma could get any closer, the CEO put himself in between us and stopped him in his tracks.
What are you doing, you idiot? Don't you understand what'll happen if you hurt him?
Mr. Miyano punched his own son and sent him flying.
I'm very sorry for the disrespect my stupid son has shown you. Please forgive him. He's still young and he doesn't understand anything. I'll explain everything to him and have him apologize, so please, don't tell your father what happened here. I'm begging you. Takuma, apologize to him right now.
Like that, both father and son ended up on their knees asking me to show them mercy. If anything else besides Mitsui was watching, I'm sure they'd think it was a scene from a movie. This was a major reason why I didn't want anyone to know about my family. I knew that once people knew the truth, that they would change the way they acted around me, and I hated it. But considering the reputation the Mafia had in general, and the actual reputation my dad had built up, there was no helping it. Don't worry, I'm still just a student, so you don't have to treat me any differently to how you've treated me up until now. However, I do expect your son to treat his colleagues with more respect. You should know that he hasn't exactly been a star employee.
Of course, I'll be disciplining him, and I'll make sure that he learns his lesson. I won't let him do as he likes anymore.
Also, I'd like to explain what was actually happening when you arrived a few minutes ago. Takuma came into the staff room drunk and started harassing Mitsui. He was asking her to go out to drink with him and tried to pulling her along with him when she declined forcibly.
What? I swear if I knew that, I wouldn't have defended him.
She tried to tell you what happened here, but you didn't even try to listen to what she had to say. You interrupted her and favored your son's version of the events, just like you've always done. The only thing different about today is what Takuma did is much more serious. If you let him keep on doing what he likes, one day he might actually assault a woman, and then it'll be too late. I think that in a normal company, behavior like this means that you should consider some sort of punishment, like docking his pay.
I'm really sorry for his behavior. Mitsui, I'm so sorry for my son's actions towards you. I'll make sure that this is dealt with appropriately. Please forgive him.
Well, that's what he says, Mitsui. What do you think? I'll support whatever you decide.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Thanks, Hinaro.
Luckily for both of you, it looks like she'll accept your apology. Mr. Miyano, I expect you to deal with this situation as the CEO of this company, not as Takuma's overly permissive father.
Yes, sir.
We were finally able to clear up the situation, but after that, whenever we crossed paths at work, the CEO would go out of his way to give me space and bow to me, which is exactly what I didn't want. As for Takuma, he must have heard about my family from his father after that incident, because he suddenly stopped bothering me, and was running away from me every time he saw me. Takuma had been punished for how he was treating Mitsui, but I decided to collect proof of all the other things that he had done to other employees so that he could be held responsible for those actions too. I gathered everyone into one report and handed a copy to HR, and left one for the CEO. No matter how much he loved his son, there was no way that he could defend all of that. My background must have had a major part in deciding Takuma's destiny, because a few days later, he was fired. After being dismissed, he came to the headquarters of the Harano family and asked to be accepted as an underling, which surprised me. But I wasn't so surprised when I heard that he ended up being taught a lesson and shooed off by one of our members. Apparently, being made to realize his own powerlessness was a great shock to him, and he ended up shutting himself in his room and wouldn't leave. Or so I heard from the CEO when I asked if Takuma had found a job yet. I wasn't the one that told our guys to beat Takuma up, and according to one of the members that did it, Takuma had been bragging that this area around our house used to be his territory, so it really was his own fault. Moreover, the member only gave him one punch before Takuma begged for him to stop, which makes me think that all his stories weren't true after all. I hope he uses this chance to redeem himself and stops boasting every chance he gets, and instead focuses on actually improving as a person. By the way, after almost being attacked by Takuma, Mitsui expressed her gratitude, and thankfully didn't change the way she treated me, just like all those years ago.
Thank you, Hinaro. You really saved me. To be honest, it felt good teaching Miyano and the CEO a lesson.
She really hasn't changed one bit since middle school. She's always looked at me for myself, and not for my family, and I'm really grateful for that. I guess that's why I've fallen in love with her all over again. I don't know how our relationship might change from now on, especially since I'm aware that there aren't a lot of women who would be willing to go out with a guy involved with the mafia, let alone the guy that's next in line to be the boss. But I hope that at least while we're working together in the same warehouse, I can enjoy the time I get to spend with her.